They say that 100K is the hardest sort of hump to get over when you're talking about personal finances. Because after 100,000, your money really starts to work for you. And you don't really have to work as hard as you do in order to get to that $100,000. So I really want to focus this video on how I personally grew my net worth to $100,000 at the age of 26. I will preface this with this was not easy. It took a lot of hard work, dedication, sacrifice, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I'm just letting you guys know that it was not easy, but I made it happen. And it is possible. It's possible for you as well, but you definitely have to be willing to sacrifice and put some serious work in. So I want to talk about 5 things that I did that allowed me to get from a $0 net worth to a $100,000 net worth by the time I was 26. So let's get right into it. I think the biggest aspect and the biggest thing that allowed me to get to this net worth at my age is the fact that I lived at home with my parents throughout college and for about 4 years after college. Now, obviously, this isn't ideal for everyone, and I want to acknowledge the fact that it's not possible for everyone. Everyone's personal situation is different, so some people may not have the ability to live at home with their parents during college and or after college. So I do understand that. However, for a lot of people, this is possible, and I think if it is possible for you, you absolutely need to take advantage of this if you want to increase your odds of hitting that 100K net worth, especially in your mid to late 20s. So I lived at home with my parents during college, and it allowed me to basically save everything. I worked throughout college, and I basically put all my money towards either paying for school or saving and investing. I didn't have to pay for rent. I didn't have to pay for food. I didn't have to pay for utilities. My parents are fantastic, and they took care of all that for me during college, as well as basically took care of all that for me for the next about 3 to 4 years after college. But I think living at home is a key factor in your ability to grow your net worth to 100,000, especially if you want to do it in your 20s, because all the money you'd be putting towards rent, you can then allocate that towards getting out of debt and or saving and investing. So this is like the number one biggest factor in my opinion to reaching that 100K net worth. If you can find a way to kind of, get through life for a few years without paying rent, that's your biggest expense. So if you can refocus that money towards your goals, which is hitting that 100K net worth, it's going to really increase your odds of getting there a lot quicker. So that was the biggest thing for me, is not having to pay rent and really not having to pay for too much else. I didn't really, like as I mentioned, I didn't pay for utilities, for food, any of that stuff. Really, all I had to pay for was my car. And again, I can't thank my parents enough for providing me with that opportunity. And I took advantage of it, and it helped me get to where I'm at. So I can't thank them enough for that. So another thing I did in order to reach that 100K net worth was all throughout college and throughout my, the first half of my 20s, I was working multiple jobs and I was working weekends, man. I was doing everything from working at a bank, delivering pizzas, working for a moving company. I was hustling so hard. I was like driving people around who would just pay me to drive them around. Like, these are like friends and coworkers and stuff like that. Like, I was the guy that would literally just drive people around as long as they paid me. And this is mainly on the weekends, of course. So people trying to go to bars and go down the shore, to the beaches and all that kind of stuff. So I would just drive people and they would pay me. I was doing anything I could to get my hands on more money. And I did this for years. I'm talking like 5 years. I was hustling, working 2, 3 jobs, working during the week, weekends, nights, everything. I was just getting money as much as I could from as many directions as I could. And I did this for years. And, when you're doing these side hustles and stuff, like making a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you do this every week for 5 years straight, that extra money adds up, man. Like that makes a big difference in the long run. So that's something else I would recommend to people is just work your ass off, man. Get as much jobs as you can, work as many hours as you can, instead of going out and partying on the weekends, work, that way not only are you making more money, but you're not spending money. So that's it, man. I was hustling. I was hustling and I was making a lot of extra money on the side, and I was just saving it and investing it and paying down debt and all that kind of stuff. You know how it goes. So that's something else I would focus on. It's just, working multiple jobs and working weekends. That was a huge factor. Number 3 is I was consistently looking for new ways to make money. And let me kind of elaborate on that, because this kind of sounds like the previous one, right? Working multiple jobs, finding extra ways to make money. And while those were all great, those were all things that I had to trade my time for. So I was going into work, I was clocking in, I was delivering food, I was driving people, I was trading my time for money. But I started to focus on ways to make money that didn't require my time. So the two main things that I'm referring to here are a high yield savings account and investing. So I opened up a high yield savings account, and while this isn't a drastic amount of money over a few years, I probably brought in an extra, like, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 grand, which is great. Like that's $3,000 or $4,000 extra that I wouldn't have if I didn't do that. So, when I got to a net worth of $96,000, if you take into account that additional money I brought in from the high yield savings account, that brings me to that 100,000. So that was like, it's extra money, man. Why not? I had money in savings and I put it into an account that paid me more interest than a normal bank account. And I made a few grand off of it. So I was constantly looking for new ways to make money. And this kind of plays into investing as well. And that's actually going to be part of my next point. But I learned how to invest too. I wanted to learn how to put my money to work. I was working so hard, saving all my money. I'm like, if I have all this money, can I use it to make more money? The answer is yes. And I learned how to invest. So between high yield savings and investing, I probably brought in, a good extra chunk of change. I don't know, maybe like 5 to 10 grand or something like that. I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm just saying hypothetically. So I was constantly looking for new ways to make money, especially ways that didn't require my time. And that helped me too. It gave me a boost. So that was number 3. Number 4, as I mentioned, has to do with investing. So once I learned how to invest, man, I was investing hard. I was investing everything. Once I got out of debt, I was investing every single week. Every time I got paid, I would throw money into my investment accounts. And I was buying stocks, I was buying ETFs, I was buying crypto. I was just putting my money to work. And I did this consistently for, again, years. And this really boosted my net worth. I had money coming in from dividends. My investments themselves were gaining. They were appreciating. I was having capital gains. So I did this aggressively and consistently for years. And again, that really helped me get to where I'm at today and reach that 100K net worth. And I think it's really hard to reach that 100K net worth if you don't invest. It's possible. It's just going to be a lot harder. So definitely learn how to invest. Start reading on it, watching YouTube videos, listen to podcasts. Investing is mandatory if you're really looking to grow your net worth. So the 5th and final thing that I did in order to reach that 100K net worth is I just avoided the lifestyle creep, man. I even when I started making good money after college, I basically saved and invested everything. I wasn't really buying anything that I didn't need. I wasn't going out more because I started making more money. That's not to say I didn't treat myself or anything like that, but I pretended like I wasn't making that much money. I pretended like I was still grinding in college, paying for school, and all that extra money I was making, I was just saving and investing. And it allowed me to get to that 100K net worth. Again, like all these these things that I'm mentioning today, like doing one of them isn't necessarily going to make or break you, but doing all five of them, living at home through college and after college, working the weekends in multiple jobs, constantly looking for new ways to make money, investing, avoiding lifestyle creep, like all these different things piled together are what allowed me to reach that 100K net worth by the age of 26. And let me tell you, man, like it feels good. Like, again, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging or anything, but I'm making this video to prove that it is possible as long as you're willing to sacrifice things and put in the work. And it's worth it in the end, man. Like trust me, it is worth it. You're going to sacrifice stuff, you're going to miss out on things, but it's worth it in my opinion. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Really just want to come on here to talk to you about how I got to 100K net worth. That way it can kind of let you know that it's possible and hopefully motivate you to get there. If you're new here, I post all kinds of content, personal finance, life experiences, my opinion on different things. So if you like this kind of content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I post every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and then on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you checking in with me, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.